with pleasure, George McDaniel. George is a longtime friend, and he is, of course, you know him as a former director of Drayton Hall. And George is a Georgia native, as is Mary Sue. And they have, George has spent a career at Drayton Hall. But George has another side that you don't have a clue about. He has a very interesting other side of George. And I'm going to let him tell about it, but I find it very fascinating to learn that this other side is just virtually the opposite from the gentle and person that he has been down at Drayton Hall. But very fascinating, and I think you will appreciate his other side. Now, you are going to wonder why we're talking about Vietnam experience. Last time we talked about my son's experience in Iraq and in the Middle East and so forth. Today we're talking about George's experience in Vietnam. The reason why I developed this program is because we have a very poor understanding of what our local friends and neighbors have experienced. And in many cases, they've had very traumatic experiences. And they come back and do things like head up Drayton Hall, and they have to deal with a lot of trauma that they've experienced in other places. And I think it's important for us to appreciate that, to understand that, and to know what happens to our friends and neighbors and relatives when they come back from war zones and they do community service despite the effects that they have experienced from war zones. And so, George, it is my pleasure, and I appreciate you so much for coming here and talking about your experiences and sharing with the Preservation Society. Thank you. Let's give George a warm welcome.
Good, thank you very much, Amy. And I'm delighted to be here, and not necessarily delighted to talk about war. That's something which we didn't have to talk about. We wish we didn't have to talk about. So I much prefer peace.
Go ahead and light for you.
Okay. And Haywood is right about this, and that for a lot of people who come back from a war zone, you have choices to make. What do you do? I mean, how do you rebuild your life and so forth? And you were a flight nurse, and you were a Vietnam vet, and there may be other veterans in here as well. So what do you do? I mean, what do you do with your life? And some people, they don't. I mean, they really go downhill, and other people try to live a normal life, fit in, and contribute to society. Those are choices. And everyone's life is no parlor game. We all have to make serious choices about what we do with our life. And so that's what we did when we came back from Vietnam. And I'm going to talk about Vietnam in a different way, or we'll talk about history in a different way. One way of looking at history is to look at the macro. You know, you study world history or European history or American history, and you just hit the high spots, and you look at the major events. the major themes of American history. You could look at Vietnam, and you could look at the strategy of Vietnam and how things developed and why. You know, over the span of time, you could see how Americans acted and what our beliefs were and so forth. That's one way of looking at history. Another way of looking at it is more micro. And I'm going to, in this presentation, going to talk about Vietnam as I experienced it. And I was not in the CIA, I was not in the State Department, I was an infantryman. And so that's what I'm going to talk about, those things I know and that I experienced. And one of the things about Vietnam, and think about anything in history, or especially Vietnam, is that experiences are different. You in first cab, and you experience things differently than I did. You're going to hear my experiences, and we did a lot of reconnaissance in force, what we call reconnaissance in force. We just go out to country strength and divide up into platoons, sometimes even into squads, and go looking for VC. And we would get VC, we wanted to get to the North Vietnamese Army. I was never any big battles like Khe Sanh or Hamburger Hill or Tet or anything like that. It was just small, very small scale operations that we were involved in. I thought it's really important for you to see sort of up close and personal what war is about. And again, I experienced, I need to be careful, I'm going to talk about how I experienced war and not what war is about, because everybody experiences it. It's going to be different. And so these are some of my experiences, and people in my unit, I'm sure, would tell different stories, different things. But I'm going to talk about things that I know. And let me turn this around so I can see what I'm doing here. And I've entitled this presentation, War is No Game. And you know that. And too often, people sit around like what we're doing right now and talk about, oh, we need to do so and 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 so, and as if war is a game. I mean, as if, you know, people don't get hurt, people don't scream, people don't holler, people just good guys die, or bad guys die. You know, good guys don't. You never run out of ammunition. You know, those kinds of things. It's just sort of a game. And I'm especially concerned about today because we see video games and TVs and movies, especially video games, where you just kill somebody and they're down, they move on. It's sort of callousness. And maybe it's always been that way. Maybe we've always been callous in that way. But I'm just concerned that somehow war can be seen as a game. And by no means it's not. A lifelong effect. It's certainly affected me the rest of my life, and friends of mine who were killed. It's affected their wives, their widows, their children, and so forth. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And also I'll talk about the things that we carried. I thought, since your Preservation Society may be interested in some of the stuff, some of the materials that we actually used and what they were like. And Haywood brought some things from his experience in Vietnam. And so he was with Montagnons up near Cambodia and Laos, and brought, you see the hat in there, the basket, and the toy, and the gun. Looks like the Viet Cong, they've trained with a toy gun, but once they got the real thing, it was no longer a toy. But they didn't have the weaponry for training as we did, so they used wood. So you'll see that in there. But that was the guys we may have been fighting against, trained with that kind of weapon. So let me begin, okay? Vietnam War is no game. Vietnam, 1970, 1969, 70. I came in after Tet. So the war was kind of slowing down in terms of its action. And I'm going to talk about changes that war makes, the changes. And I'm going to talk about, I was in the Peace Corps. Then was drafted into the 1st Infantry Division. Then with the 11th Army Cavalry Regiment, but I was at a base camp job there, and then came home. So in 3 years, 2 years, and before that I was teaching. So you can see in 3 years from teaching, Peace Corps, to the infantry. I was with the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red 1, in 1969 and 70. And when we think about history, I wanted to sort of give y'all some readings or something about what we did. But we worked in small teams. You know, there were no news reports, and one reason because news reporters couldn't keep up with us. There'd be a drag on operations. And then no books written about us. We were barely made into First Infantry Division Annual. They reached an annual review at the end of the year, and I think there's some photographs of us in there. But no TV news with it. But we weren't in a Hamburger Hill, something newsworthy, and you didn't know whether something was going to happen. We went up for 3 to 7 days, and a lot of times nothing happened. And then we have a few personal photographs which I'll show you. So oral history principally. And the question is telling this history important? Is that, so what? And I think, here in your own lives, you have things that you know here in Summerville, is that important or not? And thankfully we have the Summerville Preservation Society that engages in preservation of things that ordinarily maybe seem not important. But that's why we need to record these stories and houses as y'all are doing. And I'm sort of, just as you're thinking about this, you can, there's sort of 6 topics you can look at any war this way. Why a person goes, how they changed, and I can talk about that, reality of place. Vietnam is different from Normandy Beach, which is different from Afghanistan or Iraq. The things we carried, I'm going to spend a good bit of time about that, and the lessons learned, values that were reinforced. So in 1967, I was teaching school. There's Mr. McDaniel. I taught history and French, European history and French. And then I joined the Peace Corps in 1968. It was in Togo, West Africa. And there in Togo with my with my Togolese counterpart. And the draft board had promised me a deferment. They said, if you join the Peace Corps, you won't get drafted. If I continue teaching, then I would get drafted. I went to graduate school, I'd get drafted. I didn't mind serving the nation, but I prefer the Peace Corps over military duty. But I didn't mind serving the nation. So I joined the Peace Corps and was there in West Africa in 1968. And then the draft board double-crossed me. And once I was in Africa, they said, nope, we're not going to give you deferment after all. And so I appealed to the state Board of Appeals, Presidential Board of Appeals, lost all those levels. And then I had a choice whether to go to jail, which I didn't want to do. At that time, it was exile for the rest of your life. There was no amnesty at all. I was just going to be in Africa or wherever I was going to live. But I loved America, we just heard, and wanted to come home. So I thought, well, I'll get drafted and then I'll be free. So then went to Fort Benning. And with Fort Benning, I was selected to go to the Officers of Canada School and the Vietnamese language school because I spoke French fluently, was learning African languages. So my language aptitude was very high. But in order to do that, you had to have a security clearance. And they found out that I had been in the Peace Corps, which made me a PICO automatically. And I demonstrated against the war earlier, so that came out. I guess code A means you can go to CIA, FBI, and it's code A, B, C, D, E, F. I came out code Z. And I couldn't go to Officers Canada School. I couldn't even go to non-commissioned officer school. Now I could have re-upped it, been on, mechanics or admin or something, but that's the technique. So I'll go to infantry and do 1 year and come home. So that's me in advanced. Well, that was in basic training, not advanced infantry training. But you training, you get hardened. That's one of the purposes of going through basic training, advanced infantry training, and all that. You get hardened both in body and mind. Your mind changes, and I could see that happening to me. And you become, and then when I got to Vietnam, I was assigned by computer to the 1st Infantry Division. I could have been 100 with 101st, 1st Cav, whatever, but I just ended up with the big red one. Went over as an individual and came back as an individual. One of the things that General Abrams changed was unit cohesion. So I did away with the draft, but you went over as a unit and you came back as a unit. But I went over just as an individual, flew over there, arrived at my unit as an individual. My time was up, go home. And so there was a lot of it. There was no group cohesion. You developed that on the job. This is a map of Vietnam, and we operated. This North Vietnam's up here, and then Saigon is here. I'm sorry, it's a little bit fuzzy here, but Saigon is here, and we operated between Saigon and Cambodia roughly in this area. And you'll see here's Saigon, and we have this is Lai Kay right here, and we operated just in this area right in here, principally. Sometimes we were over in the Iron Triangle, sometimes up the trapezoid, but mostly, and we can see the Black Virgin Mountain. We talked about the Black Virgin Mountain. I could see it. Sometimes it would be a chopper, and we could see it. But most of our work was along Song Bay River in that area up to easy. Oops. So I arrived with headquarters of the 1st of the 18th Regiment, and I was looking at the history of the 1st of the 18th Infantry. I'm from Atlanta, and lo and behold, the 1st of the 18th Regiment had been with Sherman, and it torched me, burned my city to the ground, raided my family's places in and around Atlanta. And so I was served with their unit. So that was sort of a surprise to me. And we operated lots of about platoon. That's our platoon, my platoon, Alpha Company. Now platoon strength varied, maybe 20, 25 guys, something like that. And then we come in off operations and had a picture taken. And what I want to accent is so important when you study anything. Any war, or you're contemplating going to war, what does the terrain look like? And as I said earlier, Afghanistan and Iraq, they're different from Vietnam, different from Korea, different from France, different from Germany. You really have to understand the place and what that's like. And so this is just a group, this is not my unit, but they're out, and you can see in the background, they're just on patrol, and you can see how vulnerable they are. They're in the open. I didn't like the open. I like a bit more back in the jungle, but you can see how thick the jungle is. And there could be, 100 guys back there, and you wouldn't know it. That's what it's in some ways it's like the low country. When you look at, just across the street there, there could be 100 enemy over there. You couldn't see them. So very, very different. We operated out of fire support bases. This is Normandy 3. You can see the sandbags there for protection against mortars and rockets. And then these are bunkers along here. And then this is all concertina wire. I have barbed wire out in that area. You can see all that's been cleared off, creating fields of fire. And then just at the distance you can see the jungle. So you have fields of fire, and we protected in that way. And then here's the artillery, looked like a 155, and you were 155 and 175s. Right. You get calls coming in. Here's the guy getting a call coming in. Communication was so important. Guys on the phone, we call it on the horn. He's calling in. The guy will be mapping the coordinates, and there must be a gun emplacement over here. And then from that artillery, that piece, he'd be giving fire support as needed. Then we'd be chopping out, it would be chopping out about 80 guys. We would divide up into platoons. And you really can't see it here, but how clear the landscape is down here, and then there'd be jungles, rice fields down here, and there would be jungles in there. And here we're getting extracted, but these are the rice fields where the choppers would come in, either inserting us or extracting us. You can see the dikes there. And we'd set up ambushes in there, some around villages, we'd work around there. And then you can see the jungle over here, and you can see it's been defoliated. See how that's been defoliated up there? And here we're popping smoke, purple smoke. Guys coming in here, choppers coming in to extract it. That's why I took the picture, because we were being extracted. When you've inserted, do you take pictures? No. Because you don't know who's waiting on you out there. So you don't hang around in open area like this when you're being inserted. Actually, when you've been extracted, a little bit safer. And then this again is that sick operation. This is not my unit. This is just illustrative. Communication is so important. And then you can see the jungle behind it here, there, elephant grass here. But you can see how thick that is. And we'd be in the open, but then try to get back in the jungle for protection, or for cover. And then I said we'd go out on reconnaissance in force, about 80 guys. We'd divide in platoons, and we'd look for signs of Viet Cong or VC activity. Look for the base camps, look for active trails, and then we set up daytime and nighttime ambushes. That's principally what we do. Go out, walk, we call it humping the boonies. You do that, and then you set up daytime ambushes and nighttime ambushes. Waiting for VC, of course they'd be waiting for you too. And then get resupplied after about 3 or 4 days, depending on what all had happened. We'd get resupplied. And choppers would resupply us and bring us, let us from home. And so here we are, ready to be choppered out. I talked about it, we go out for 5 to 7 days, and you can see this guy has, he's got a 2-quart canteen here and a 2-quart canteen here. I think over there, I can't quite make it out, maybe some more, and all this stuff. And then we'll talk about the things we carry. Those are the things we carry. You probably do the same thing too. You recognize these things on this list here. We carry a weapon, either M16 or grenade launcher. Well, they don't have a machine gun. We M16 have ammo, maybe 400 to 600 rounds. Grenades, you maybe have 6 frag grenades, C rations, water. Of course, your fatigues. And then about the fatigues, when we go in to our base camp, after 3 or 7 days, you'll be probably funky, and you just turn them in, your uniform, they just give them your size. But you say your name or rank or anything, and one day you could be a captain or lieutenant or sergeant or whoever, and you just of a medium regular. So whatever your length was on your pants, your waist, I think it was medium. It was small, medium, and large. That was it. Maybe extra large. I don't know about the waist. I don't know any fat guys in infantry, but so you just give you size. And one time after we blew an ambush, some generals came in to get souvenirs, and they came up to our lieutenant. they come up to us. They came up to Angelo, who was Hispanic, who couldn't speak English that well, and he was wearing Lieutenant Cook's uniform. He had Cook and lieutenant bars. And so General Wolf went up to Angelo and said, "Congratulations, excellent operations." And here comes this broken English, whatever he said, CC or something, And the general's so looking puzzled, like, what the world's going on here? And then about that time, Cook comes up, and he has McDaniel, and he goes, "All right." And he says, "I'm Lieutenant Cook." And the general looks around, you got McDaniel? Oh no! So anyway, they finally got it sorted out. But we knew who was who. And that's what I want to go about history. We were at the micro level, macro. So we knew all that stuff. And so we didn't need names and rank. We knew all that. So it was fine. And then, kosher steel pipe, bushel, ammo belt. And we use an NBA poncho, not a poncho you see regular GIs, you know, but NBA, North Vietnamese Army poncho, but just a long sheet of plastic, about 6 or 7 feet long, maybe 3 or 4 feet, about that wide, and you put over you. And if you wore a regular GI poncho with a hood and all that, you get in a firefight, how you gonna get your ammo? You got that thing on. What y'all wear? What kind of ponchos y'all have?
We had GI ponchos, regular ponchos, and liners, poncho liners, usually. Where we were. For a while in the Highlands,
if y'all get hit, if you're out on patrol or you're in an ambush and you got hit and you got on that hood and what? I mean, I found this way, I know. Well, you just throw off the sheet of plastic and return fire. I mean, that's why we had it, because we had to be quick. So we did that. No, this is a long list of things. There's a towel. A lot of times you'll see us wearing towels around the neck. Handkerchief was worthless because you sweat so much, you know. And at night, we take a towel and wrap around our head and leave a little opening for your mouth so you can breathe through that. Mosquitoes would be all around you, but they couldn't bite through the envelope of the towel. So you protected that way. And so there I am going out on recon, and I think this is just for a day patrol because I don't have I'm traveling light. No Claymore mine, I don't have a Claymore, and I have a 2-quart canteen, that's it. So probably, you know, I don't think I got much, not normal when we went up for 7 days. M16 rifle, that's what we carried. Some guys carried a M14, which is heavier. I just didn't like it as much. It's maybe more dependable, but I was carrying so much weight anyway, and I got used to the M16, so that's what I used. And that's what most of us use. We have one guy who wore point, and he liked the M14. And then the AK-47 was a weapon used by the Viet Cong, by the North Vietnamese. It's a rugged weapon. You see the Chinese use it, the Russians use it. There's a Viet Cong use holding one, and so that wooden rifle you have out there, that's what they would have trained by that. And it has banana tip, 32 rounds. And there's a guy firing a M16, and this is a clip right here, clip, and we put 18 rounds in there, and count to 2. Can you count to 2? Count to 2. 1, 2. Say it.
1, 2.
Okay, you're out of ammo. On fully automatic, M16, you're out of, all you fire is 18 rounds before you can count to 2. And here you can see, probably got it on auto. That's 1 round, that's 1 shell, that's another shell, that's another shell there. It looks like one's coming up there. So when we talk about the weight that we carried, that's how we had to carry so much, because we carried 400 to 500, 600 rounds with us in clips, bandoliers, and our rucksacks. Because help was, a long way away. It may be 15 miles, 20 miles away, and you get hit, and you don't know how many people are going to hit you, so you got it. Now I'm going to divide this group up. We're in the jungle. And an AK-47 makes a different sound than an M16. So in the jungle, you go by the sound. I've heard some GIs carry AK-47s. I don't know why they did, but there's a different sound, and you put your life in danger. If you're a GI and you're firing an AK-47, what's going to happen to you?
You're the target.
Yeah, you become a target. Okay. Divide right down here, okay? I want you to say bang, 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 and then you say pow, pow, pow.
Bang, bang, bang. Pow, pow, pow. Bang, bang, bang. Pow, pow, pow.
Now, when you hear pow, 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 what are you going to do? Where are you going to fire? That way. When you hear bang, 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 that's what you do. And so you don't go, hey, AK-47, are you a friendly? And there was one guy, some doofus, who was in a company, wasn't in Oklahoma. We went to a BC base camp, and he picked up an AK-47, which we were never supposed to pick up anything in a base camp because we booby trapped. And he picked it up, and he started firing it. And we almost killed him. I mean, I just turned around, I heard AK-47, bang. You know, and so you don't stop and think, and hey, are you just practicing? What do you know? Okay, so we go out, and this is I'm going to talk about some of the things they carried, and that's to talk about I think the Claymore mine. And that was one of our favorite weapons. We did a lot of ambushes, and here's a Claymore mine. It's an anti-personnel mine. It would come in a bag like that. You carry that. You run a cord to it with a little small blasting cap in it. And this is called a clacker. And you hit this into the clacker, and then you take a blasting cap and insert it in these openings here, and then run it back to your position. And when you clip the clacker, it would excite just a small electrical charge, go through that wire cord, and then enough to blow the blasting cap. The blasting cap would blow the claymore. And you can see by the prongs here, it can be directional. I could hit it in this direction, that direction. I could tilt it up, tilt it down. And so, this is what was so deadly, is it behind here is C4, which is a plastic explosive, and then in front, like big buckshots. So it's like a big sawed-off shotgun going off. And here, see the Rangers, you put it right here. If y'all were just here, I'd kill most of y'all. Most of you, or one of you, I mean, so I'd put you out of commission. This is the killing zone here, and then you should go further away. So, but it's like a big sawed-off shotgun going off. And the good thing about it is it doesn't give away your position. You can blow your claymore, and they don't know, the VC wouldn't know where you were. At night, this is a night that have a guy up on guard, two guys up on guard all times. These are the clackers, and they'll be pointing in the direction that the claymore fired. So if you hear enemy activity coming in that direction, you can blow your claymore, you know which one to blow. And then this are frags, fragmentation grenades. There'll be a signal flare if you need help. And then that's my knife, and I stick that in the ground. So at night it would be so dark you couldn't see all these things. And so we could position ourselves by the knife, we could feel the knife, and it would know where the placards were. And that's our nighttime ambush position. Again, we were mobile. We didn't dig foxholes or anything like that because we give away a position. We were looking for the VC, they were looking for us. And we would set up the nighttime ambushes position, set it up just before dark, set up our ambush, dawn, we're gone. And so this would be a nighttime ambush position. We sleep on our poncho liners. That's my pillow, that's my 2-quart canteen, steel pot, my rifle, and then I put a towel over it to keep the dew off of it. And then this is my ammo belt there with grenades and so forth. And then every night was the same thing. Every night was the same thing. You always, just a routine you set up. And these are trip flares that we would carry. And you could, there's a card pin here, and you straighten it out so it can be pulled out easily. You use these plastic strips or wire to attach it to a tree or bush or something. Run a trip wire across the trail, tie it onto another bush over there. And here I am setting up the trip flare, and there was one bush with this stout enough trunk that if the VC were coming, it would be stable enough so that it wouldn't just bend. It would pull out the pin. The problem was that bush was full of black ants. And so I was had to put that thing on just so. And meanwhile, ants were crawling up my arm, across your chest. You had to grit your teeth and do it. And after I jumped back, but I'll never forget that. I mean, first I sort of brushed them off, and then no, you did what we had to do. And then the next morning, we were breaking bushes, the choppers were coming in to pick us up. So one of my guys in my platoon tripped the wire, and the flare's going off. And we chop it out, so that's what we're doing. So we're carrying all that gear. Okay, Haywood. Won't you put this on?
Remember, I have a hip replacement.
Oh, you're fine, you're fine. You're a veteran. There you go. Put that on.
Alright.
Got that?
Yep.
How's that feel?
Heavy enough for me.
Okay, now. Okay, a gallon of water, 8 pounds.
A gallon of water.
Okay, now it's 16 pounds.
Whoa.
Put a chair behind
Okay? Now,
What's all the water for?
this is what it's carrying. Take that on.
I got to hold on to my trousers.
I gotta tell you, in the bush in Vietnam, you never wore underwear either, so I don't know.
Okay, now you're just carrying, let's see, he's carrying 32 pounds. How's that feel?
Feels heavy.
Okay, now, I'm not gonna do it, but they got 4 more, that's 64 pounds. Now, with that, could you walk from here to, let's say, Zane Park, Zane Square?
Not now.
Okay. That's just, he would be carrying about a third of what we carried.
Wow.
Just some indication of all the weight. When I list those things, you know, it may sound, oh yeah. But you get some indication of what that's like. And I carried a radio out of a radio telephone operator. You can take off there. Telephone operator can weigh about 25 or 30 pounds. Carry a battery.
You want to put those back over there?
I don't know if they want to do that for the moment. So that just gives you some indication of what we do for 3 to 7 days. That's 32 pounds. We'd be carrying 3 times that. You'd be carrying 80, 100 pounds, 110 pounds, right? I mean, on operations, that's what we did. During the rainy season, that's what it was like. You were just in it. And then we'd come back off operation, that's what a feet would look like.
Oh.
You take off your sock and peel the skin with your sock. And then this is me having sea ration chow for lunch or during daylight ambush. And you see how low we are. And then all this has been defoliated around there. There was enough cover for us to remain concealed during the daylight ambush. And there'll be maybe 10 or 20 of us, depending. Well, you'd have 2 guys up on guard the whole time, lookout, if you will. And so when you weren't on lookout, you read, you wrote letters, you slept, or you ate lunch. And for fuel, we would use a C4, which is a plastic explosive, looked like a nutty putty. And it would burn between 1,000 and 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It was odorless and smokeless. So you could heat up your sea rations or water for coffee, whatever you wanted, you could heat up in no time at all, but it didn't give off smoke. Why couldn't you give off smoke?
Unified.
Yeah, you're on ambush. You could be. And smoke is not something you just see out in the jungle. One time we were out, one of our scouts, Vietnamese scouts, heard a rooster crowing. And he got nervous. And why would he get nervous? We were out in the jungle when he heard a rooster crowing. Well,
We should not live in a jungle.
Yeah, roosters don't live in the jungle. And we were looking for a VC base camp. Okay, so War is no movie. It's not simulation. It's Bill Malthus, who's a friend of mine. And he's walking point here. Normally I was walking that far behind him. But he was walking point, and then it was just when he was going to the tree line, got stepped over the booby trap, rolled around, and his leg got blown up. And then I was behind him. I got hung up in some wait a minute vines. We call them wait a minute vines. And then I was blown with 100 pounds of gear. I was just blown in the air like a chip. And laying on my back, big, tall plume of smoke going up. Leaves kind of gently coming down like fall. And I don't know how long I was down. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, I don't know. And then came running up, and we were not supposed to, they train you not to do that because the VC could open up on you when you run up to help. And they could open, you could get killed. But you know, your friend gets hurt, what do? You run up to help. So he's flight nurse, they saved his legs. And he's dead now, but he left through Vietnam. And then here's an ambush that we blew. Had about 35 enemy, and we operated just between Saigon and Cambodia. And then again, war's no game. About 20 of us, and then there was a Claymore mine. This woman, there were about women among the group of VC that we hit. And a Claymore mine, what we saw earlier, when it hit her, it blew her foot just neatly off, just like a surgeon. And so she was dead here, and her foot was laying over there. And then I threw grenades. Guy was crawling up in my position. I killed him with a grenade. And then we swept the area, and then I followed a blood trail, and there was a VC who had crawled under a bush. And I was going to kill him because I didn't want to sweep past him. Then he shoot me in the back. So I radioed. I said, "You're going to hit some gunfire over here." And we called him Goose. And he said, "When you Goose over, we can kill him." And the guy said, "No, you're just going to go past him." So I did. Put my gun on him, ease back. And got safe distance. And then when I swept the area, came back, put my gun to his forehead, rolled him over because I thought it may have a grenade under him, a pistol. Rolled him over, and he was clean, but his legs were all scrambled from grenades and claymores. And anyway, he crawled there, and so we shot him with morphine, and then called him out of back and carried him in my arms to the chopper. My unit never mistreated any wounded Vietnamese except a Viet Cong. Some guys I heard did, but we didn't. You were wounded, then you'll fight your day. Your fighting days were over. And then that's a Viet Cong flag. One of the VC been carrying and killed. And then again, war's no game. This is Captain Kelly, who is our commanding officer of our company. Really a good guy. And he got killed. He got ambushed by Viet Cong, and that's his daughter here at the Vietnam Memorial Wall. So it's again, war is no game. And he could have been replaced, as I say, he could have been replaced, but he knew the guy who was replacing him, and he said, "No, I'm staying with the unit." And he stayed with the unit another month or two, and that's when he got killed. But that's a lot of things about heroes and leadership and things like that, and he was a real leader. And I write about that on my Facebook page. You can Google George McDaniel. There's a picture of me holding a spot-tail bass. But I write about him, 2 or 3 things about him. Really like Kelly, he's a good man. And then another friend of mine, Paul Giles, was killed and he was from Toccoa, Georgia, and he had done something, I don't know what was going on with his wife, but he said, I'm gonna make amends to her when I get home. The things we're gonna work out things. He had a daughter. His daughter was born, and named Claudette, named after him. And she was born in December, got killed in February. And I called his mother. When the Vietnam Memorial Wall was dedicated, and I spoke with her, and what she wanted to know again and again was his name on the wall. He didn't know why. She didn't want to know why he got killed, how he got killed, did it last long, none of that. Is his name on the wall? Is his name on the wall?
And you had been to the dedication?
Yeah, I went up there for dedication for the wall, then came back and on my return called her and got in touch with her. And that was what so many people want to be remembered. You know, that's what you, the Preservation Society, you do. You help remember. And people appreciate that. Then 1st Infantry Division was withdrawn, and Nixon's plan was to, he didn't withdraw anybody, he just reassigned as in-country. Since it was an undeclared war, 1 year tour of duty, and so people who had 1 year to duty, they came home with the 1st Infantry Division with their flags, and then guys like me who had 6 more months to do, then I was reassigned to another unit, and took that person's place. So I took guys' places with the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, and then some guy from the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment came home, and was in, came home to parades, as if he was in the 1st Infantry Division, which he never served with. He just came home carrying the flags. So it was not good. I was a little older, and so I could kind of see through some of these things that were being said. But some guys that were excited about they were going to be coming home. They were in their wives or girlfriends or family that they were going to be withdrawn, and they were reassigned. And one of those guys was Merriman, who carried a machine gun, and he was the KIA going into Cambodia, and his mother was a widow, and he was an only child. So war's no game. War's no game. So, what are some of the lessons I learned? As I said earlier, war's no game. It's not simulation. Dead people don't get back up again. War causes pain, whether you're friend or foe. Doesn't make any difference. People don't want to die. People scream, whether you're American or Vietnamese. You get scared as you're dying. You go into war. You do unleash the dogs of war. What does that mean? When I say unleash the dogs of war, what does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to unleash the dogs of war?
I guess the bad things, the horrible things.
Yeah. Dogs get so angry, they're fighting mad, and you unleash them, they can come back and get you. You can't control them. And that's what happened. War, we've seen that happen in Afghanistan. That's what you unleash the dogs of war, and there are going to be unintended consequences out of that war. And then luck. Why did the wait a minute violence just hold me back? Because I've been where my position with Malthus was when he was stepping on the boot trap, I'd been cut in two. Boom, I've been dead. So I got behind his helmet, just luck. Lessons, you become hardened. You become alienated. You're hard to talk to people. And I can talk a lot about this, and probably you could too, but you have photographs and you can do it. But if I were to just try to talk to you about Vietnam in the abstract, you would know what I was talking about. So photographs are really helpful, and it helps build a bridge. And then friends of what you're fighting for. We want patriotism or flag or country or democracy or freedom. We've heard of that in speeches. But what you're really fighting for is stay alive for your friends that, you know, you're right and you left you. That's what you're doing for. And out of that, I came to value all more common humanity. The Vietnamese the Viet Cong I talked about, they weren't just abstractions. There was a wounded human being there. They were wounded people that really needed help. So it helped me break through. So those are some of the changes. Well, there was teaching high school in 1968, 67. Going out on recon in 69. And so came home, I was glad to be alive, and how you were able to change life. War changes you. And so I decided to build a career in history and education with museums, as Haywood talked about, and then trying to build community, and then my family, have a family, and then the Vice Chancellor Sawani, where I went to college, said that he said something, I believe it too, in that he answered a call and received a blessing. And if I think of my own work, I've answered a call and received a blessing in response. And so next time, I don't know if I'm gonna pass these around, you can see them, but I think that in the winter, you pass these around. In the winter, you're gonna hear from me again. Hey, we'll have me back. And this is about the book I've written about Drayton Hall.
Joe, would you like some lights now?
Yeah, we can have some light.
Oh, right.
And you can just pass that around. So I just, but I really, I hope that I've sort of given you a sense of an experience, a sense of, you know, wait, this is history, because this was what 50 years ago, more than that. Not talking about strategy, but talking about something up close. You know, up close, and so that's what war is. It's not something, you know, not a parlor game as I've talked about, or as you've seen here. Not a parlor game. Real people, and the consequences are real, and not only during the war, but also afterwards, years afterwards, and there's still effects, there are consequences that I feel, and that other my friends have felt too, or the families of those people who were killed. You know, that's something that they got to carry that burden. So any questions and so forth.
Let's give George a big hand. We have time for a few questions.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
George, for my entire life, I've been an Army lieutenant.
Good.
And I have heard war stories from the other side, or the other end, if you will. This is the first time that you have brought it home to me. And I feel it right here. Having lived through World War II and Korea and 2 tours of Vietnam, and our sons were in Iraq several times.
Sure.
And you have brought it home to me.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I was trying to do. And war is no game. And the people out there who have to suffer the consequences of it in real life. And so, good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, I'd like, since my wife was the first to raise her hand, I'd like to say, and I told Marilyn this earlier today, and group that we were meeting with, but when I left for Vietnam in 1966 for a year, I left my wife with a 4-year-old.
No, 3-year-old.
A 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 2 newborn sons. And 4 babies under the age of 3. So she had a difficult time on her hands. So George has talked about what we may have experienced in Vietnam in a combat zone, but the wives, the dependents, had their own problems and to deal with back here.
I think we served.
Huh?
I think
You
we
did,
served.
Yeah.
And continue to do so.
And parents.
Yeah, parents, yeah. I did go to my parents, and I just learned it by talking to my nephews and nieces when they were little, when I was in Vietnam, and they said that when they would go to Mother and Daddy's house in the States, that every day they'd pray for me. I didn't know that, but that was just how the families, how they did. How they did. So there are a lot of those, what you were just talking about, it's so important, I think, in history, is to get up close and then you can feel it. And war is something you can say, well, it's just happened over there, or it's some abstraction, or a chess game. But real people are the instruments of that. Yeah.
Knowing that it's far from a game, but on a daily basis, y'all were out on these missions.
Yeah.
It must have seemed almost like, I mean, you didn't know exactly what you were going to find or if you'd come back. It almost seemed like a Mormon kind of game. I mean, could you
you
see your purpose as you were doing it? You were right in the middle of it.
Yeah. I look back and I think, gosh, how did we do all that stuff? You know, how did you do that? But you get through your training, it becomes kind of like a job. I mean, you know, in fact, we didn't know how many VC were out there. We prepared for it.
Right.
You do that, and then you do the best you can, and then it's luck. I mean, it's not that, and you don't know whether you're going to hit 100 VC or not. Or many times we went on operations, we didn't see one, but you just don't know, and you get hardened by it. Then you get hardened by death. You get hardened by people being wounded, and you change. I mean, I'm not the person I was then. I was a killer then, and I'm not that way now. I mean, I can revert back to that. I know I can. I mean, I have it in me, but you change. War changes you, and so these guys who do that. I mean, I'm not violent now, but I was when I got back, and so anyway, but you live with that uncertainty. It's just part of life. Part of life. There's no escaping that reality. It's kind of like you're in this room now. You're all here. Well, there's a reality. We're there, and that's reality. So you live it.
Very soon.
Yeah.
I want George to finish up with funny. Tell about your friend when you were going to Australia.
Oh.
This is.
I went on R&R, and so you've seen the things we were doing, and so talking about being hard to do, we were getting mortared. The VC kind of suspected where we were. We'd gotten inserted in maybe a couple of hours down the trail, and we were getting mortared. But they were mortaring us, I don't know, maybe a mile down the path. And so we knew we could do, so we could hear, so as long as we did, we were okay. And so you get so used to it. I guess I just took off a damn steel pot, sat on my helmet, started riding out of home. I was, still hearing the roll out of home. And then a day later, choppers came in to resupply us, and I was going back. I was going on R&R to Sydney. And so I was at Thompson Air Force Base, and
Going to Australia.
going to Sydney. And a lot of chairs like this, all lined up, looking out that way. And I was reading a book. I always like to read, and I always carry a book with me. We went on in the bush or whatever. One of my time up on guard, I would be reading books. And so I read a book. Somebody asked me, "So what are you reading there?" And so I said, "It's a book about El Cordobés, who was a Spanish bullfighter I'd seen in Spain." And about 6 guys were out here, and the guy down there leaned forward and yelled, "McDaniel!" And I looked down there, and it was Wayne Hartley, who had been my roommate freshman year in college. I hadn't seen him since. So how you doing? So he was a Green Beret, and he'd been up near Laos, and worked with the Montagnards. And I said, well, let's go to, we were all going to Sydney. I said, well, let's get together. Let's stay in the same hotel, and maybe we can go out sometime. So he said, no, Mac, I said, come on with me. I'm going camping. You going, what? I said, I'm going camping. I said, not me, man. I've been camping. You saw. I ain't thinking about going camping. I couldn't believe it. See, camping's great in Australia. I'm going to hotel. I'm going air conditioning. I'm going hot showers. I'm not thinking about camping, you know. I've been doing all that. So that's about yeah. And then when I got to my hotel, I went in and I was okay, but then I went in and I took a hot shower and sat down in bed. There were clean sheets, and I thought, my gosh, this is normal. You know, this is normal life. I mean, getting bored is not normal, but to me it was normal. So normal I could ride out of home. But, you know, this is normal. And so just sort of a real, back to reality you were talking about. I mean, I was not used to that stateside reality that we used to here. I was in a different place.
I didn't serve, but like my barber would tell me stories. Two of them. One of them is that when he said the new guys would come in the unit and you have to dirty him up because he said the VC can smell them. Because they smell too clean. You saw how he was living in the dirt.
Yeah.
But my other friend, and that's why I was curious of your educational background, he said in our unit, after you do your 1 year, and then you get to go back home, to the States.
Stateside.
He said every clerk typist in his unit had a college degree.
Yeah.
Every last one.
Yeah. That's it.
Because it's the equalizer. I mean, there you were carrying a rifle, and the next guy didn't graduate from high school next year.
Yeah, he or just graduated. Yeah, that was what it was. There was maybe 1 or 2 college grads in my team, but most of them were just got out of high school. And a lot of us were Southerners, loved to tell stories, and so we just it was a sort of camaraderie. Giles was from Toccoa, Georgia. And other guys, we'd just tell stories and have appreciation for storytelling. And we'd tell, lies about girls back home or whatever. But storytelling was so important. But that's right. And then a friend of mine who went through advanced infantry training with me, he could type, I couldn't, so he got a base camp job. He became admin. And one of the worst things I know we got to go, but no. What is that? So, you don't mess with the guys in admin and administration. And one of his friends, who was in charge of assignments and so forth, and so there was some guy who, a lot of guys we didn't like because they were party guys made a career out of the army, but we call it, or military, we call them lifers, but they just took advantage of the situation. Just, I'm tough and I might rank you, so I'm gonna tell you what I ought to do. And I couldn't survive that kind of stuff. But there was this one guy who was just real bad, and he would just assign, guys like college, you go pick up, KP duty and pick up track, all these just awful things that this guy would do. Well, he was going home. Mind, this is before there were some computers, but you carry your orders home with you, or they sent them in advance. So when you arrived in California, back home, the orders would be waiting on you, wherever you were supposed to go, a 30-day leave, your mustering out pay, everything was there. It's in that in advance. Well, this guy who was such a turkey made the wrong guy mad. And so when he was going home, this turkey was going home, this admin guy sent all of his paperwork, his pay, leave, everything, put in an envelope, and sent it to an Air Force base in Greenwood. And so this guy arrived back in the States, and I think it's San Francisco where he arrived. And so he had no identity. I mean, you know, I guess he had a billfold with him, so and so and so and so, but all his paperwork was green with no return address, so they didn't know where to send it. And we don't know what happened to that guy. He may still be in San Francisco for all we know. But you just don't mess with those guys. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions?
I could relate to that story.
Huh?
I could relate to that story, and I hope he came back okay, but
Yeah.
I sent some guy to Vietnam
Oh.
from Germany that was supposed to go Wednesday.
Yeah, okay, there you go. You know what I'm talking about then. Yeah, that's right.
Hope he didn't get hurt.
Yeah, so you just don't know. But this has been very good, and also I pass this around. This one of the things I've been doing. My wife's been helping me. My son's been helping me. That maybe I'll speak here in the winter sometime on this book, Drayton Hall Stories. And if y'all would like a word about it, then let Haywood know, and
we're gonna put you on our schedule for the spring. Once we, it'll be after your book is published.
Yeah, book is published. But I just wanted to get you sort of a foretaste of what it is. Well, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me. Haywood.